Hey guys, so this is John with Tech Tips by John coming at you today just with a little bit of information. So one of the things that comes in pretty handy for people is writing papers. It's an integral part of school, whether you are at a high school or a college or even post-grad level. So I'm personally in graduate school. My wife's in graduate school. So we obviously write a lot of papers. She studies psychology. I study IT-related stuff, cybersecurity specifically. And so obviously the paper formatting is one of the things that's considered a no-brainer, and you lose major points for certain things. One of them is plagiarism. Always make sure you cite your references. And the other one's just the general formatting. So what I did here, just for example today, I took a paper that I had written. This was actually just for like a post that I had to do in an online class. So it was nothing major, nothing overly critical to do as far as citing. It did have one citation that I removed just for the demonstration here. It's not by any means a complete formal paper. So what I'm going to show you though is if I wanted to turn this into an APA formatted paper, how I would do it. So the first thing you want to do is an APA formatted paper has to be in Times New Roman font size 12. The default, if you haven't checked out other information I've put out on the blog, techtipsbyjohn.com, or I believe may even be in one of the other YouTube videos. One of the things you want to do though is you can use Control-Alt and we can adjust our format here. The default of Word typically is Calibri font 11 size, and I've got mine set to automatically go to Times New Roman 12 that I have in the blogs. So I didn't have it into another format to show you. So if it's not there, Control-A, highlight it all, switch it to Times New Roman, switch it to a font size 12, and it'll look like it should look. The other thing, I've got my title here. I'm going to show you how I do it. There's multiple ways you can do this. So what I want to do is create a page for my actual cover page. So a proper paper has a cover page, and again, this was just a post, so it didn't have one. So what I'm going to do here, just to show you kind of the lazy man's way to do this, I'm just going to copy and paste my title in. I automatically have this set to double space, which if you don't know how to do that, here in the home group here, there's this little drop down right here, and you can click it and adjust your spacing. Again, mine's already a size 2, so I'll put John. Now I can put my last name there. Let's say I'm going to Widget University. So I've got the start of my title page. I'm not going to cover abstracts because frankly I don't deal with them a whole lot. I can talk about it if it's really something people want to know about. So the main thing I want to do though, and I have it up here in my quick group up here, but I'm going to show you how to get to it normally. What we want to do is get a page break. Some people just hit the enter key over and over. So what I'm going to do, the first thing, I'm going to get this kind of down somewhere towards the middle so it's nice and centered. When I go down here, I can actually insert, and over here on the left under pages is a page break, and boom, that's just going to pop down everything under where I click to another page. So we're definitely looking a lot better there. Another thing that we want to do here, we're definitely going to need some headers in this. So proper pages are supposed to have headers to tell you what's going on. Now when you get in a way to make the headers, there's a few ways to do it. The big one is just to, if you double click up towards the top, that'll take you into the headers. If I double click down under it, it'll get you out of headers. So double click. Real simple, navigate back and forth. So at least with APA, the first page is structured slightly differently. So I always click that button for different first page here. There we go. So I can actually look at this and tell, I can look down at the very bottom, by the way, down here and tell that I'm on page 2 of 3 right here. So what I'm going to do, I've still got my title in there. Bear in mind it is centered. One thing I'll say, if you're making this from scratch with the Calibri being the default for Word, when you go up into header, even if you've made everything else Times New Roman, that header will try to default to Calibri. If that's the case, you just highlight it and change it. It's not a big deal there. So since I pasted it up here, I obviously don't want it sitting in the middle. So under my home group here, in the paragraph section, this is your left, center, and right align, and there's justify that just kind of stretches it out so it looks nice and even on both sides. I want this on the left. To show you how I do this, though, to add the page, what I want to do, and I'll do this from design here. So I want to add a page number. Now, some people are inclined to use top of page. I don't, because it blanks out anything else that's on there. What I can do is I drop down to the one that says current position. For some reason, it just seems to work better for me, and I'll hit plain number, and I've got my page 2 showing up in there. Now, I can tab that. If I go too far, by the way, it'll let me bring it back around. See, it just did that. So I'll just backspace once. I just use that tab button to get it where I want to. Okay. And now if I go down, by the way, to page 3, you can see it automatically changes page 3. What hasn't changed, however, is page 1. There's nothing up here because I have it marked to be different. So, if you want to do it the easy way, one thing you can do, just so you know, it's supposed to be all caps. So before we copy this, we're going to make this all caps. In the home group, some people will just type in multi-factor authorization and data integrity in all caps. I paste it in. The reason I do that, there's this neat little button right here in the home group in the font section. There's an uppercase A, lowercase a, and it says change case if you hover over it. Under it is uppercase, and you can see you can make the whole thing lowercase, you can make it sentences, however you want to do it. If you had your caps lock on and did a section, you can use toggle case and it'll invert everything for you. So now it is all uppercase, which is exactly what I wanted. So I'll just I'll click on here and hit the delete button a couple times, bring that back up to where I want it. Now if I go through, I copy that text. I'm going to go up here to my first one. The funny thing with APA is it has you put in the word running head. And I've seen some schools don't really care if it's there, some do. I try to just keep it in there just to make sure I'm always consistent. And now that that's in, I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. I'm going to go over to my header and footer tool design button. I'm going to hit page number, current position, plain. Left arrow one time just to get behind the one, and I'll tab it out to where it's at the end. So looking pretty good. I've got the running head there. Now if I needed to here, by the way, I could click here. I could insert another page break and then have room for the abstract. The abstract, actually, the only difference with the abstract, it's like a summary of the entire paper, just the what it's about, the meats and guts kind of information, but it does not get tabbed in like the word all and all country insurance there. So we're looking good there. The one thing I did, I used a source. So in the source I use, and you can do this as you go, I'm just doing it kind of the end. The IDS, some intrusion detection system, does not investigate issues or compensate for weak network security protocols. It's not my original thought. So what I do is I just click next to the end of it before the period, and I want to create a citation for that. And I actually completely delete out my citation so I can show you this from scratch. Under References, we have a button here called Manage Sources. Now you can see on my left side, these are all sources that I've done for a current class that I'm working on. So the one that I've got, like I said, I completely deleted it out, so we're going to hit New. That's going to bring this up just so you know, depending on what you're citing, if you're citing a journal article, notice how the fields, author, title, journal name, pages, these shift based on what you're doing. So if I'm doing a book, it'll tell me the main things that I need. I'll show you one other cool thing in just a minute that it does. Some people like to use CiteFast and some other sites that are out there on the internet. They are free. They can be really good resources. But if it's anything you're going to build on, a lot of times it's good to do it this way, because if you have to add in, it's a lot easier to add resources if you have an existing document where that right-hand side where your sources are is all still there. Otherwise, you got to figure out how to alphabetize the new stuff in. If you're merging documents, that can be a pain in the behind. So we've got this website here, and this is where I got it from. So I'm actually going to go through, I'm just going to copy that URL. I'm just alt-tabbing back and forth, by the way. The URL is here at the bottom. So I'm going to go through and just check out what I need in here. So we've got all the information. This is where we got it from. I'm not too concerned about all the information here. The biggest thing is just to make sure you're crediting the writer for what they did. Alright, so as we go through, we just kind of look through here, and actually we have the Science Institute 2001 Secure Reading Room, and the hard part of this can sometimes be trying to figure out where to get the article writer. As I recall, this I actually got from the actual page that it came from before. So Danny Rosenblum, there we go, is our author. And in this case now, sometimes you end up having to type it. The bad thing about PDFs is they don't always work well, as you can see there. So I'm actually going to just type it. Danny Rosenblum. For the web page, that's just the title of the actual article you're looking at. So I'm just going to go through here, and this one does copy nice and easy. There we go. You can credit the site. I'll be honest with you, I don't know how many people ding for not doing that. I typically don't even bother doing it. So I know this is a 2001 just because of where I saw that in there. I don't think it actually expressly says here where it is. I do believe in the original Science page before I loaded this actually listed it. So since it says 2001 down in the footers here, I'm just going to go with that for the purposes of reason. But if you know the proper year, some things will have in their cover page, it was written in on this date. You just put all the information here. And just so you know, for month, you literally just write out December, August, whatever it is, and the date. Now, the thing is, websites change. So we have this thing that says show all bibliography fields. The only time I ever really use this is with websites, just in case something changes between the time you list it and there's a revision and the information is not where you said it was. What I typically do here is I'll say 2018, November the 5th, and OK. So now if you'll notice, Danny Rosenblum's over here on my right-hand side for the current list. Now he's not actually in the paper yet, but you can see what the in-text citation is going to look like, Rosenblum 2001, and what the bibliography entry is going to look like. I can close out of this now. Now here where I wanted to put the citation. So I want to put the citation inside of the paper itself, which is just a short citation. When I click my little drop down, it'll show me any of them that I have in here. So if you want to use it more than once, it'll still be in this list if it's part of this current paper. When I click on it, look at that, it lines it out perfectly. So now my paper's done. I just need to add a reference page. So what we'll do is we're going to go in and we're going to just go back in here, and I'll shortcut it to insert another page break. I make a couple minor modifications here. In the references group is bibliography. Now you can see in bibliography, when we click it, we've got bibliography, references, and works cited. I typically use references just because that's the APA formatting for it. And I'm just going to click it. It's going to take everything that's in my current list. If I had 10 of them in here, it would put 10 in and they would all be alphabetized. Just because it is APA, I'm going to do a couple different things here. I'm going to just highlight all of this. I'll do this from the home button just so you can see how it would normally be. It's blank because it means it's got two different styles in it, two different fonts. So references is actually in heading 1, and then the rest of the Rosenblum to the end is all in normal. So I'm actually going to click the drop down here, make this all Times New Roman. I'm going to make this all size 12. Now, while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click the button to double space, adjust my spacing. Now, references here, what I want to do with this, I just want to highlight the word references. I want to center it because it's supposed to be centered. And then if you notice, it's kind of a bluish tint, and I want to color it black. So now, that's how it looks. If I did, by the way, add another citation, I can actually do that. I can add my citation just like I did before. I can put my in-text into the paper itself. And when I click on the word references here, it'll bring up this little thing here, update citations and bibliography. Notice how it brought it back together, and that's only because it's actually updating. If there were any other citations that you would put up top, it's going to automatically bring them down here and put them in the right position. So it's a fantastic way to handle your references. And if I go back later on, I realize, oh wait, you know what? I have some other stuff in here that I needed. Let's say this, I did add something. I'll just show you exactly how it works. I click on my references, my managed sources, and let's say this is not part of this, by the way. I'm just using it solely for an example. I can copy something from my master list over here if I've used it before and it's already in here, or I can hit new to create something new. I can hit my close button, and you can see that Rosenblum's still there, but now I have Net18, this network traffic analysis. The Net18 is just something that it gives it. You can also overwrite that if you want to make it something different. I'm going to add that in. And you notice it's not automatically down here, but if we click references and we update, there it is right there. So again, the only thing after the update that I've got to do is just go back to my home page, and we're all nice and double spaced. So I've got a clean looking paper. If you're working in a different format, if you're working in Chicago or MLA8 or IEEE or whatever you're working in, by the way, in this citations and bibliography section, there is a drop down here where it defaults as APA 6th edition. You've got Chicago. You've got all these different variants here, the Harvard style, IEEE, ISO, MLA. They're all in here. Kate Trabian is still around. I used that way back in high school. I know I'm probably dating myself there, but that was a favorite of my high school English teacher. So you can adjust that to whatever format that you need. There's a lot of neat stuff you can do. I like to really look professional sometimes, by the way. And just to kind of show you, if I go through and I insert a page here, I can go back up to this page I just created, which is now a nice blank page. And I will left align this, and I can actually go back to my references. And if I have several different headers, this is great because it automatically pulls them in. I can create an automatic table in the table of contents. In this case, it only shows references because I don't have any other ones in here. But if I did, let's say I had, this was a header. This as well. This is one of my headings here. So now I have a couple different things that I want people to be able to click through in the document and get where they want to get quickly. This I found really neat. The same thing works in the reference page of the bibliography here. I can click on contents. I can update table. Now it's going to ask me, did just the page number change or did you add some stuff to the entire table? In this case, we add 2 headings. So I'll click the entire table. And if you notice, now we have them here. Now what's really neat, once this is up and running, it'll tell you control and click, and you can actually get to where you want to be. Boom, it shot me right down to primary access. So a lot of things is pretty versatile to use. Just don't forget to save from time to time. I know autosave is on, autosave is great, autosave is your friend. Don't always trust it. I've seen too many people have their laptop go out, and even autosave only saves based on how much time you've set it to save. And that's something that you always want to monitor as well. So, if I go into my options here, I've got my saving here. If you notice, my save auto recover information every 10 minutes. Well, I know my wife actually lost part of a document the other day because she had done about 8 minutes of work and lost it all when the power went out on the computer. It just wasn't plugged in right, and all of her work was lost. So she was frustrated, and she did put it back together, but that's aggravating. Typically, if you're gonna adjust it, I don't recommend going lower than 3 minutes, by the way. What it does is not actually saving your work, it's actually writing out what you've done. So if you've got it like 1 minute, the system's constantly trying to keep up with itself and doing it. So I usually recommend at the least 3 minutes. So, and when you're done, you can just file and save your document like you want it to be, and then you'll be ready to submit it. So hopefully that answers a lot of questions on setting up the APA paper. You can tell the main things. We've got our headers in. They look good. We've got our reference page. It looks solid. all of our text. We've got our in-text citations right here. And by the way, if something's not the way that you want it, you needed to make some changes to it or anything, you can actually edit the citation directly in it. You can make it a static text if there's something that you want to be able to type into it. So you can manage those if you need to do so. So we have our contents here if we need them, and we've got our main page with the separate running head. So we covered a lot of information today. Truly hope it benefits you all. I appreciate you taking the time to watch, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Happy writing.